Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are wrestling with a topic of, well, just colossal scale.
That's putting it mildly.
We're talking about the single individual who oversees what is arguably the most powerful collection of technology companies ever assembled.
Right. You're not just talking about one company.
No.
No.
We're talking about the leader managing the economic engine of Google Search, the cultural behemoth that is YouTube, the future of mobility at Waymo,
The global AI frontier at DeepMind.
and dozens of other entities, all under one massive roof. We are, of course, talking about the CEO of Alphabet Inc. and Google, Sundar Pichai.
What's fascinating here, and I think where we should start, is that the magnitude of his role really transcends traditional corporate management.
How so?
Well, this isn't just about overseeing product pipelines or hitting quarterly targets. It's about governing the underlying infrastructure that billions of people use every single day to communicate, to navigate, to access information globally.
It's almost like a public utility at this point.
It is, and that demands a unique, an almost impossible blend of deep technical vision and, frankly, diplomatic skill.
That's exactly right. And that's our mission statement for you, the learner. We want to go far beyond the daily sound bites and headlines. We are tracking the entire trajectory of Pichai's life and career. We're going to focus intensely on those pivotal moments, the academic decisions, and, crucially, the products that really defined his path.
We're trying to give you a high-resolution shortcut to understanding the architect behind this entire sprawling machine.
Exactly. So what's our source material for this?
Our primary source today is a really comprehensive biographical overview. It takes us all the way from his roots in India. It details his academic achievements, marks his product development triumphs within Google.
And then it tracks his what feels like an inevitable corporate ascent.
Right. And finally, it doesn't shy away from examining the really challenging controversies he's had to navigate on the global stage. It's a very balanced look.
Okay, let's just unpack this immediately, because the starting point is, I think, baffling to a lot of people.
It is.
How does a man who begins his academic career focused on fundamental materials engineering, I mean, we're talking about the literal study of physical structures, of metals, how does he rise to lead the company that practically defines the modern digital internet?
That's the question, isn't it?
What exactly bridges that gap for him?
That pivot is the core strategic lesson of his entire career. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, his early education in materials science,
Right.
the study of how things are built to be robust and interact efficiently, that, combined later with high-level management consulting at McKinsey and Company, it provided him with the perfect foundation.
So it wasn't a liability, it was an asset.
A huge one. He didn't start with just coding. He started with optimizing substance and scale. He learned structural integrity and management rigor before he ever mastered the specifics of software feature sets.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Let's delve into those roots, because they provide the context for that intense drive.
Let's do it.
Pichai Sundarajan, better known to the world as Sundar Pichai, was born on June 10, 1972, in Madurai, in the state of Tamil Nadu, India.
It's an incredibly precise origin story, and you're right, it really does set the stage for everything that follows.
Understanding the family unit seems crucial here.
Absolutely. He was born into a Tamil Hindu family. His mother, Lakshmi, was a stenographer, which right away indicates a professional working background.
And his father, Raghunatha Pichai, was an electrical engineer.
Yes, and the source material gave a fascinating specific about his father's workplace. He worked for GEC, the General Electric Company.
A massive British conglomerate.
Exactly. Now, that detail suggests a solidly middle-class upbringing where technology and engineering principles were just constantly present in the home environment.
You can just imagine the dinner table conversations.
Right. It implies this emphasis on stability, on applied science, and just the inherent value of a rigorous technical education.
And that technical immersion clearly defined his early schooling in Chennai. The sources are very, very specific about his education path.
They are.
He attended Jawahar Vidyalaya Senior Secondary School in Ashok Nagar, Chennai. And then, crucially, he completed his final year of high school class 12 at the Vanavani School.
Which is actually located right on the IIT Madras campus.
That proximity just feels so telling.
It really is. It paints this picture of intense academic pressure, the exact kind of demanding, high-stakes environment that produces leaders who are ready to scale globally.
He was basically breathing the air of India's most prestigious technical institution.
During his most formative years, yes. And that naturally steers you toward a certain kind of engineering excellence. You're surrounded by it.
And yet the specific engineering path he chose initially is still, I think, a surprise to people who only know him as the CEO of a software company.
A huge surprise. His initial field of study was not computer science.
Which is what you just naturally assume.
Of course. He earned his Bachelor of Technology, his B.Tech, from IIT Kharagpur, another one of the elite Indian institutes of technology.
And the subject.
Metallurgical engineering.
It just sounds so physical. The science of metals, alloys, materials. It couldn't feel farther from Silicon Valley software.
On the surface, yes.
I think we need to linger on that for a moment. Why is metallurgical engineering such a good, if, counterintuitive starting point for a platform leader?
Because it's all about foundation. It's about the bedrock.
Okay.
Metallurgy is just systems thinking applied to the physical world. It forces you to understand the properties of materials, how they react under stress, how you combine them for optimal performance.
And how to create processes that yield consistent, high-quality results at scale.
At scale, that's the key. So when you move that mindset to software, you are naturally inclined toward designing robust, scalable, and stable platforms like an operating system or a browser.
Instead of just building fleeting features.
Exactly. He learned optimization and resilience from the ground up, from the atoms up, really.
So he took that deep science foundation and then layered a comprehensive global academic path right on top of it. This is when he starts his move to the U.S. for postgraduate work.
Correct. The first step was Stanford University, where he earned an MS, a Master of Science, in Materials Science and Engineering. So this shows he was initially deepening his technical specialization. He's going from the B.Tech to a master's degree in his core field.
But then came the crucial pivot, the intellectual cross-training.
Which was the shift to business and management at the Wharton School.
On the other side of the country.
Exactly. He travels across the country to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania to complete his MBA. Now, this combination, deep engineering and top-tier business administration, is the classic formula for modern tech executive leadership.
It lets you speak both languages.
Perfectly. You can speak the language of the engineers building the product while simultaneously setting the high-level corporate strategy.
And the sources highlight something important here. He didn't just get the degrees. He excelled at the absolute highest levels in both of these very contrasting fields.
He was recognized with some significant accolades. While he was at Stanford, he was named a Siebel Scholar.
And what is that exactly?
The Siebel Scholars Program recognizes the top graduate students in fields like science, computer science, and business. It's a huge honor.
And then at Wharton?
At Wharton, he was named a Palmer Scholar. That's an honor reserved for the top 5% of the graduating MBA class.
Wow. So top of his class in both hard science and in business.
This dual recognition is profound. It demonstrates his ability to master both the rigorous technical demands of engineering and the complex financial, managerial, and strategic demands of business school.
He proved he could synthesize hard science and corporate strategy years before he ever ran a major product team.
That's it. It's the ultimate academic resume for a future CEO of a diversified technology conglomerate. It just proves adaptability and excellence across these wildly different domains.
And this adaptability was then tested professionally, even before he landed at Google.
Right. His pre-Google career experience really confirms this blend of engineering and consulting.
Initially, he followed that path laid by his B.Tech, working as a materials engineer.
Yes. He started his professional life applying his science. He was in engineering and product management at a company called Applied Materials.
This is important, I think.
It is, because he understood the practical, real-world challenges of product life cycles and manufacturing from a physical standpoint first. He wasn't just in the world of abstract code.
Then came that essential management consulting stint, which is what truly broadened his perspective beyond just a specific technical problem.
That's the McKinsey chapter. He had a brief but highly significant period in management consulting at McKinsey & Company.
And what does a place like that teach you?
It's where you refine your strategic architecture skills. Consulting gives you this incredible exposure to massive, complex corporate challenges across all sorts of industries. It teaches you how to analyze business structures, optimize operations, and formulate growth strategies under insane deadlines.
So let's put it all together. He arrives at Google in 2004, not as just another highly technical engineer.
No.
But as an engineer who also understands global-scale strategic management, process optimization, and corporate structure, thanks to those Wharton and McKinsey chapters.
That's the key takeaway from this first part of his life. He was, in a way, strategically architected for leadership. He didn't just stumble into the CEO role.
No, it feels very deliberate.
His academic and early professional choices systematically built a profile capable of running a multi-layered global platform company. The foundation was rock solid, blending the rigor of metallurgy with the high-level strategy at McKinsey.
Okay, so let's pivot to 2004. He joins Google. And his career ascent from this point on is almost entirely defined by his mastery of client software.
The products people actually interact with every single day.
Exactly.
When he joined Google in 2004, his core responsibility was immediately focused on product management and innovation for Google's suite of client software products.
And you have to remember the context of 2004.
Right. Google was still heavily reliant on its search bar, and its entire future was dependent on what the browser companies like Microsoft with Internet Explorer allowed them to do.
They didn't control their own destiny in a way.
Not at all. They were a guest in someone else's house, and that sets the stage for what is probably the most pivotal product development of his entire early career.
Rough.
Chrome.
Chrome.
Absolutely. Chrome was a strategic imperative for Google. It wasn't just a nice-to-have feature. And Pichai spearheaded the development for the Chrome browser and subsequently the operating system designed around it, ChromeOS.
Because Google needed to control the interface, the window through which users access their services.
Precisely. Chrome was the solution to that existential threat posed by competing browsers.
I think we sometimes forget the timeline and just the sheer ambition involved in building a full operating system from a browser.
It was a huge risk, a massive undertaking. The initial public demonstration of ChromeOS came relatively late in the game on November 19th, 2009.
And the hardware. The Chromebooks?
The actual hardware, the Chromebook, was released for testing in 2011, and then it only went public in 2012. He wasn't just building a quick app. He was building a full, independent computing platform designed from the ground up to be web-centric and cloud-dependent.
And the success of Chrome solved that critical problem. It guaranteed that Google's core revenue generators, search and ads, remained central to the web experience.
No matter what Apple or Microsoft were doing with their respective operating systems.
It was a strategic masterstroke. It gave Google control over the very pipe through which the internet flowed to most users.
And the ability to execute on a project of that scale immediately made him indispensable. It was clear this was someone who could manage immense complexity, and his focus on user-facing client software just expanded rapidly from there.
The sources credit him specifically with the cloud storage solution, Google Drive.
Yes, the source says he was largely responsible for the development and innovation of Google Drive.
And think about the strategic coherence here.
It all fits together.
First, you control the access point, which is Chrome. Then you control the storage and productivity suite, which is Drive. He was building the digital ecosystem that would eventually replace, or at least seriously challenge, the dominance of desktop software like Microsoft Office.
And that oversight just kept expanding. The source specifically mentions it grew to include Google's most globally recognizable apps like Gmail and Google Maps.
So he was managing the essential products that cemented Google's position not just as a search engine, but as the primary provider of digital infrastructure worldwide.
This expansion shows you the internal recognition of his talent. He wasn't just a specialist in one area, he was a systems integrator. He could manage these disparate yet interconnected product lines and make them work together.
And we see this systems-level thinking even in his less-known projects, like WebM.
Yes, the WebM project. The announcement on May 20th, 2010. Sounds really technical, but this was a massive platform move.
Right, so break it down for us. What was the strategic importance of announcing the open sourcing of the VP8 video codec and introducing this new video format, WebM?
It was pure platform warfare, and it's a brilliant example of how he thought about long-term architecture, not just short-term features.
Okay.
VP8 and WebM were Google's big push for an open, royalty-free standard for web video. At the time, competitors were pushing proprietary video formats.
This meant what exactly?
It meant that anyone using that format, and that includes huge platforms like YouTube, would eventually have to pay licensing fees or be restricted by specific competitive technologies.
So by open sourcing it, he was guaranteeing that YouTube and other Google services had a future-proof, royalty-free standard to operate on.
Exactly. They effectively neutralize a potential threat to their video dominance before it could even materialize.
It's like a defensive move that also becomes an offensive one.
Precisely. It was about strategically removing friction and future costs, cementing Google's control over key internet standards without having to fight expensive patent wars down the line. It was a classic move of using open standards to ensure ecosystem dominance right under the noses of their proprietary competitors.
His portfolio was already just massive by this point. I mean, it encompassed the browser, the OS,
Yeah,
the cloud storage, key apps.
everything the user touched.
But the real strategic shift, the one that put him on the path to CEO, came in March 2013. This is when he took control of the single most important mobile platform in the world, Android.
That was a tectonic event inside the company, a huge deal. On March 13th, 2013, Pichai took over oversight of the entire Android operating system.
Which had previously been managed by its influential co-creator, Andy Rubin.
Right. And this wasn't just a small team transfer. This was the transfer of the most valuable piece of mobile real estate that Google owned. The keys to the kingdom, really.
So let's analyze the significance of that. Consolidating Chrome and Android under one single leader. This feels like the moment where his engineering background, his consulting acumen, and his product successes all converged.
It is. This was the moment the unified platform vision became possible.
Because before 2013,
Before 2013, Google was effectively managing two separate, massive operating systems. You had ChromeOS for lightweight laptops and desktops, and you had Android for smartphones and tablets.
and they didn't always play nicely together.
There was friction, there was redundancy, and there were potentially conflicting product roadmaps. Larry Page's decision to put Pichai in charge of both was a clear, unambiguous directive to unify the user experience.
I wonder, though, wasn't there a major risk in doing that? You're consolidating two massive, previously independent teams, Chrome and Android, with their own cultures. Wouldn't that lead to internal conflict, culture clashes, maybe a dilution of focus?
Oh, that is absolutely the management challenge he had to solve. The risk was enormous, but the reward was even greater.
Which is,
By placing both platforms under a single manager, Pichai could force collaboration. He could share engineering resources. He could ensure product feature parity. He was the one who could move Google toward a world where your experience, whether on a cheap Chromebook or a high-end Android phone, was a seamless, unified Google experience.
he removed the internal friction so the company could focus on fighting external competitors.
Like Apple and Microsoft, that was the whole point.
And the ultimate result was making Google less vulnerable in the mobile operating system wars. And it made Pichai, just utterly indispensable to the founders.
He was the only person who could successfully manage that critical confluence of products. The consolidation created a single, powerful point of control for the vast majority of Google users worldwide.
If you used Google, you were using a platform that Sundar Pichai managed.
Whether it was the phone OS, the browser, the map, or the email client, he became the definition of the operational core of Google.
That indispensability then led directly to his formal elevation within the executive hierarchy.
Right. Before his final promotion to CEO, then CEO Larry Page appointed him as product chief.
Which formalized his role as the master strategist, overseeing all the core products globally.
It was less of a promotion and more of a formal recognition of the reality on the ground. He was already functioning as the executive in charge of the company's biggest profitability drivers.
So this position just made it official.
It essentially meant he was the chief operating officer for every single product that mattered to Google's bottom line.
And his reputation wasn't just confined to the Googleplex either. He was a sought-after global talent.
That's a great point. The sources remind us that in 2014, before the whole Alphabet restructuring, Pichai was suggested as a serious contender for the Microsoft CEO position.
The one that eventually went to Satya Nadella.
The very same. And this outside interest, this validation from a major competitor, was huge. It confirmed that the global tech industry viewed him not just as Google's rising star, but as a proven leader capable of running any major tech firm on the planet.
That external validation had to have solidified his internal path to the top job.
No question about it.
So that path culminates in 2015. The promotion to CEO of Google was announced on August 10th, 2015. And it was tied directly to that seismic corporate restructuring that created the holding company, Alphabet Inc.
The timing is absolutely crucial here. The structural change allowed the founders, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, to step back from the daily operational grind of Google.
So they could focus on the moonshots.
The other bets, exactly. Waymo, DeepMind, all of those futuristic projects. But someone had to stay behind and manage the cash engine, the core business that funded everything.
And that person was Sundar Pichai. He officially stepped into the new CEO role on October 24, 2015, which perfectly coincided with the completion of the formation of Alphabet Inc.
And this demonstrated just absolute trust. Page and Brin effectively entrusted the trillion-dollar cash flow machine, Google Search Android, YouTube Maps, ads to Pichai.
It's an immense responsibility.
It required a manager who is operationally sound, strategically aligned, and, most importantly, someone who could maintain stability and profitability at a scale that is almost unheard of, all while the founders went chasing futuristic experiments.
So his job was to keep the lights on and the money flowing.
A responsibility that is far more complex than it sounds.
I think we need to spend a little more time on the strategic genius of that Alphabet formation and why Pichai was the perfect fit for that new Google CEO role.
Right.
He wasn't brought in to invent the next search engine. He was brought in to manage global growth and prevent decline.
Exactly. The founders realized that the sprawling nature of Google was causing internal confusion. It was also probably dampening investor confidence in all these long-term, non-core projects.
So Alphabet created clarity.
Total clarity. Google is the profit center. The other bets are the high-risk, high-reward future. And Pichai's blend of engineering and consulting experience made him ideal for the Google CEO role because he could optimize, harmonize, and rationalize all those core products he already managed into one cohesive profit machine.
He was the synthesis expert.
That's the perfect term for it.
So he went from managing product lines to managing an entire corporate entity whose profitability sustained the rest of the empire. That's a fundamentally different job.
It is. It demands a completely different skill set. It demands governance, investor relations, and regulatory compliance expertise.
Which his MBA and consulting background had prepared him for.
Exactly. He was now responsible for navigating antitrust scrutiny and global data privacy regulations, all while keeping that engine accelerating.
And his leadership role within the overall corporate structure just deepened over the next few years. In 2017, he was appointed to the Alphabet Board of Directors.
That's a formal indication of his expanding authority beyond just the Google portion of the business.
What does a move like that signify internally?
That board appointment signifies that he was being groomed for the ultimate role. He was no longer just reporting to the founders on the performance of Google. He was helping set the strategic direction for the entire holding company, including those other bets.
So he became central to capital allocation decisions across the entire organization.
Yes. Where does the money go? To Waymo. To DeepMind. He's now in that room.
And the ultimate ascension came in December 2019. This is the final step, where he takes full control of the entire conglomerate.
In December 2019, Pichai became the CEO of Alphabet Inc., succeeding co-founder Larry Page.
And this meant he retained his role as CEO of Google and took the reins of the entire organization.
Yes. So he was in charge of everything, from DeepMind's cutting-edge AI research to Waymo's autonomous vehicles, all the way back to the foundational search and ads business.
The implication here is just enormous. In just 4 years, he went from leading core products to leading Google itself to becoming the successor to the co-founders.
Entrusted with the future of their entire sprawling multi-industry empire, it's staggering.
It really is.
It confirms that the founders saw him as the definitive caretaker of their legacy. And his job shifted yet again.
From what to what?
From maximizing Google's core performance to strategically managing a portfolio of high-risk, high-reward companies, setting the organizational culture, and acting as the global face of a company that is constantly under geopolitical and regulatory fire.
The CEO of Alphabet has to synthesize multiple futures simultaneously.
That's a great way to put it.
1 minute he's talking about DeepMind's latest AI model, the next he's defending Google's search algorithm to Congress, and the minute after that he's discussing Waymo's safety statistics.
It is arguably the most demanding synthesis role in the global corporate world today. The technical complexity alone is immense, spanning hardware, software, AI, biology, autonomous systems.
But perhaps the greater challenge is the political and cultural synthesis required.
Absolutely. And that brings us directly to the headwinds he has faced.
Right. With that level of consolidated power over technology used by billions of people, the job inevitably shifts from simply scaling success to managing constant global scrutiny. So let's pivot to those inevitable headwinds, the challenges and controversies that have really defined his tenure as a global leader.
And this section is so critical for providing a balanced view. Running a company of Google's size means managing intense internal cultural dynamics and relentless external political pressure. These controversies aren't just speed bumps.
Right.
They're defining moments in his evolution as a leader.
So let's start with the internal tension, specifically the 2017 Anti-Diversity Manifesto. This incident immediately thrust him into a very high-stakes cultural debate within the company.
The 2017 incident involved a high-profile Google employee who circulated a 10-page internal manifesto criticizing the company's pro-diversity policies.
And it went public very quickly.
Very. And Pichai drew significant public attention for his swift response.
So
He fired the employee.
that decision was immediately polarized. It just highlighted this immense tension between, on one hand, free expression among employees, and on the other, the enforcement of the company's stated values regarding diversity and inclusion.
Absolutely. Pichai's action signaled a very clear line in the sand regarding internal ideological debate on these deeply sensitive ethical and social issues.
He was defining the boundaries of acceptable discourse within the corporate environment.
Yes. For the first time, really, Pichai wasn't just managing code. He was managing conflicting ideologies within his workforce. And he chose to prioritize the company's anti-discrimination policies.
Now, fast forward 7 years to 2024. The sources document another later incident of internal dissent, this time tied to commercial contracts.
Yes, this involved Project Nimbus, a major cloud computing contract Google held. Following protests against that specific program, 28 Google employees were fired.
And this incident prompted Pichai to issue a public statement.
It did. A statement that really defined the professional boundaries required in the modern Google workplace.
What was the essence of that statement, as documented in our source material?
He issued a stern warning against using the company as a personal platform. And crucially, he stated explicitly that the office is not a place to fight over disruptive issues or debate politics.
That's a very clear message.
It shows a highly evolved post-controversy leadership philosophy. It suggests a clear desire to enforce corporate discipline and maintain a laser focus on business goals, especially when internal dissent risks affecting high-profile strategic commercial agreements.
The juxtaposition between the 2017 firing and the 2024 statement is fascinating.
It is.
It suggests a hardening of his leadership philosophy, moving from managing an isolated, high-profile ideological conflict to implementing a generalized rule of corporate focus aimed at preserving business momentum.
This shift is a defining aspect of his tenure. I think he learned that in a company with the global visibility of Google, internal dissent rapidly becomes external political noise.
And that threatens investor confidence in government relations.
Exactly. So his response became one of strict professional demarcation. Business is business.
And that external political pressure arrived in a very formal way, a congressional subpoena. In late 2018, Pichai was forced to directly confront the political implications of Google's immense global power in Washington.
That public testimony was, it was mandatory viewing for anyone interested in the future of technology governance. On December 11, 2018, Pichai appeared before the United States House Judiciary Committee for a very high-stakes public examination of Google's practices.
This was not a friendly interview. This was an inquisition. What were the key issues that lawmakers really hammered him on during that session?
There were three major, highly politicized fronts. First, the question of possible political bias influencing Google's search results and platforms.
A perpetual hot-button issue.
Always. Second, legislators pressed him very hard on the company's alleged plans for developing a censored search app, which was internally referred to as Project Dragonfly, that could be deployed in China.
A huge ethical minefield.
And third, there were general concerns regarding Google's privacy practices and just the sheer extent of its data collection on global users. That was heavily scrutinized.
So what were Pichai's official responses to the committee as documented? We have to report impartially on the corporate position he presented there.
He took very clear, very careful defensive stances on all three issues. Regarding the bias allegations, he told the committee directly that the search results cannot be influenced by individual Google employees.
He blamed the algorithm?
He pointed to the algorithm as the mechanism, not human bias. On privacy, he emphasized that Google users are provided controls and can opt out of certain types of data collection.
He put the onus on the user.
To a degree, yes. And the China search engine, that was arguably the most controversial issue concerning global governance.
Right. What did he say?
His critical response on that controversial China search engine was that there were no current plans for a censored search engine in China.
No current plans. That's very specific language.
Very specific. The statement was clearly designed to diffuse the immediate political pressure regarding the company's potential role in aiding state censorship abroad. His whole testimony was a masterclass in corporate diplomacy.
Defending the algorithms, stressing user choice, and denying immediate controversial product plans.
Right. The requirement for the CEO of Alphabet to be this kind of policy expert and diplomatic shield. It's just a dramatic evolution from the product management roles that defined his earlier success.
It connects right back to that MBA and consulting background, doesn't
It
it?
really does. He is no longer just optimizing code. He is managing reputation risk and regulatory compliance on a global scale. This kind of scrutiny is the defining feature of leadership at a modern platform company.
And the final major source of internal tension documented in our source revolves around financial optics.
The issue of massive executive compensation juxtaposed against significant workforce reduction.
A very tough look.
It creates immense ethical strain on the workforce, and it became a huge public story in 2023. The sources point out that his compensation from the company topped $200 million in 2022.
And that was largely due to a substantial scheduled stock award.
Yes. But the criticism was intense because this happened almost simultaneously with major cost-cutting measures.
Layoffs.
Precisely. This high compensation drew immediate and vocal criticism from many Google employees in May 2023, particularly in light of the large-scale layoffs Google undertook throughout that year.
The contrast is just so stark. Massive personal financial reward for the CEO, while thousands of employees are losing their jobs. It's a powerful symbol.
Of the corporate climate and wealth disparity, yes.
And that raises a massive governance challenge. How does a leader maintain morale, trust, and the core values of the company when faced with that kind of disparity during a painful reduction in force?
It is the ultimate test of leadership. Strategic layoffs might be necessary for the long-term health of the company, but the perceived disconnect between the executive suite's rewards and the pain experienced by the workforce risks destroying institutional trust.
He has to communicate why this disparity is acceptable, or else face continued internal revolt.
Exactly. It speaks volumes about the difficulty of maintaining a high-minded corporate ethos when practical business decisions centered on efficiency and profit margins have such a visible human cost.
The job becomes managing expectation, communication, and financial reality all at once.
A very difficult balancing act.
Okay, so despite all this intense pressure and the controversies, Pichai remains one of the world's most recognized and influential figures. His external validation is extensive. Let's look at the awards and influence he's accumulated.
The recognition is consistent, and it really reflects his sustained impact. He was included in Time's annual list of the 100 most influential people globally twice. First in 2016, which was shortly after he became Google CEO, and then again in 2020. This indicates his influence is durable, it extends across different eras of Google's technological dominance.
And the specific type of recognition he receives is also shifting to match the current technological zeitgeist.
You're talking about AI.
Exactly.
Absolutely. In 2024, he was included in the specialized Time 100 AI list. Now, this is highly significant.
Why so?
Because DeepMind is such a critical part of the Alphabet structure, and Google is aggressively rolling out generative AI features across its search and cloud products, his strategic decisions are now directly determining the direction of global artificial intelligence.
So being on that list confirms his role as a global AI power broker.
Without a doubt.
He's also received humanitarian and regional recognition that speaks to his global impact.
Yes, the Asia Society awarded him the 2021 Asia Game Changer Award. This award recognizes individuals who have made a positive difference in the future of Asia and the world. It links his corporate success directly to regional development and influence.
And finally, the recognition from his country of origin, which provides this powerful bookend to his early academic life.
It's a high honor. He received the Padma Bhushan from the government of India in 2022, specifically in the category of trade and industry.
And this is India's third highest civilian award.
It is. It formally acknowledges his staggering global corporate success and how that reflects on India. And the sources also provide a neat detail here.
What's that?
He shares this national distinction with Microsoft's CEO, Satya Nadella.
That's fascinating. Both of these leaders, guiding two of the most influential technology companies in the world, share that same high recognition from India. It highlights a remarkable shared trajectory.
It really does.
Now, let's briefly zoom in on the person behind the trillion-dollar decisions. What do we know about his personal dimensions that might help, personalize the leader?
The sources provide some grounding facts. He's married to Anjali Pichai, whose maiden name was Haryani, and they have 2 children.
And they live in Silicon Valley?
Yes, they reside in Los Altos Hills, California, which is prime Silicon Valley territory.
There's a lovely detail in the source about how he met Anjali,
There is. They actually became close while studying together at IIT Kharagpur.
back where he earned that foundational degree in metallurgical engineering.
Exactly. Anjali is originally from Kota, India. It's just a wonderful reminder that the partnership that supports this massive career began during those intense, formative academic years back in India.
That detail adds a really welcome human element to a career that's so often discussed only in terms of market capitalization.
Indeed. And speaking of market cap, we should probably know his personal financial standing. As of May 2025, his net worth is estimated at a substantial US $1.1 billion.
Okay. And finally, what does the CEO of Alphabet do to unwind?
His recreational interests are entirely globally focused and, well, non-algorithmic.
Which are?
Cricket and soccer. It's a classic example of the leader who spends his day navigating these complex, cutting-edge AI strategies and then grounds himself in the world's two most popular team sports.
It provides that necessary dose of normal for a leader operating at such an exceptional altitude.
I think so.
So what does this all mean? We've traced a truly remarkable and I think very strategic path, from earning a B.Tech in metallurgical engineering at IIT Kharagpur and cutting his strategic teeth at McKinsey.
All the way to becoming the CEO of a multi-trillion-dollar conglomerate.
His entire rise was built not on sheer invention, but through this unrelenting focus on platform control and strategic product consolidation, ChromeOS, and unifying that massive Android ecosystem.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Pichai's success is really defined by strategic synthesis. That's the word for him. He took Google's foundational products, Search, Maps, Drive, and he unified them under a coherent, streamlined, and fiercely protected organizational structure like Alphabet.
And the primary challenge he faces now.
The challenge now is the complex governance required to balance that massive, near-monopolistic corporate power, which is increasingly focused on the future of AI.
With ethical demands, regulatory compliance, and the need to maintain an engaged, dynamic workforce.
All of which was highlighted by that congressional hearing and the internal dissent we've talked about.
So let's summarize the core lessons here for you, the learner. The first lesson is that critical pivot from a traditional hard science like material science to high-level tech leadership, amplified by that strategic management consulting experience.
The second lesson is the crucial role of platform control, specifically the consolidation of Chrome and Android in making him an indispensable leader within the company.
And the third lesson is just the sheer complexity of the governance, political, and cultural challenges faced by the CEO of a modern multi-billion user platform.
Where every single internal decision, from compensation strategy to layoff rationale, becomes a global headline and a test of corporate responsibility.
That tension between the aggressive pursuit of technological advancement and the ethical need to manage a massive global political and labor footprint.
That is the tightrope he walks every single day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought for you to mull over as you reflect on this deep dive.
Okay.
We know Pichai stated very clearly in 2024 that the office is not a place for political debates. He warned employees against using the company as a personal platform to focus instead on business goals. So, considering that his early career was defined by dynamic, open innovation efforts, such as the open sourcing of VP8, how does a leader enforce that kind of strict corporate discipline to preserve stability and focus, while simultaneously maintaining the culture of radical, ambitious innovation, the very thing that keeps Google ahead of its competitors?
That balance between control and creativity.
That is the ultimate strategic challenge, and it's the one that's defining the next era of his leadership.